Yo everyone, welcome back to another tutorial. This one's going to be on if statements and elseif and else keywords. So pretty much what if statements are is it is structured as if condition then do this block of code, and then you can also have additional statements where you can do else and you can do else if. So you can check if a condition is true and then do a different block of code, or you can say if all conditions are false in the above if statements, do this block of code, which is the else. So we'll go through examples of these. Let's run through a script here. I'll probably do this with loops again, and we can just have if, elseif, and else. So we'll run through the structure first. So how if statements are set up is if conditions, then. So we'll have our conditions in the middle here. So only if these conditions, or this condition, so ball value true or false, is true, then do this block of code if the expression, or the condition is true. So we're saying if this condition is true, do this block of code. And we can also have else if conditions, then, oh sorry, that's supposed to be combined, do this block of code if the else if condition is true. So there we go. So if this condition is true, do this block of code. Otherwise, if this condition is true, then do this block of code. Else, do this block of code if any of the above statements are false. So that's saying if this one is false and this one is false, then do this one. And these are optional. You don't need that one. You don't need that one. It's optional to add them, but they can be definitely helpful. So I'll give you examples again. We'll go to the RPG series GitHub here. I'm going to go under SRC. Let's have a look in server storage. Let's go core. Let's have a look at our character creation system. So there's going to be a lot of code here, but we'll be looking at the return in the if statements. So here we have if they change their character in game, module set character, we've got our arguments, we've got the player, we've got the character data. We want to check if not the character created config is valid character data, that character data then return false. So I'm saying if not this, so if this is false, if not, so if this is false, then return false. If this is false, return false. If this is false, return false. So you can see that by saying, by doing these if statements, I can spread the code out vertically. And the way that I've done it is I've spread the code out vertically, but you can have this it would be called nesting in each other. So if I do if character data is valid character data, so like that. Let me actually run this in Lua. So instead of doing it spread out like this, you can do it two ways. You can have if statements in if statements. So like that. So I flip the conditions. So these have to be true for it to go to the next one. And then that has to be true for it to go to the next one. And that has to be true for it to do this one. But as you can see that if statements are pretty much just checking for conditions to be true. If they are true, then do the block of code inside them. So let's do another practical example of this. These are promises. You'll find them out later. They're very handy. But yeah, so we just use if statements to check conditions. If, in our case, the condition is false, we just return the function and just ignore the rest of the code below it. So let's jump back here. Let's say, let's do the counter again. So while true do, let's have local counter equals 0, counter plus equals 1. So we'll increment the counter by 1. Let's say if counter is smaller than 10, then we'll print counter. And then let's say else if counter is larger than 10 and counter is smaller than 30, then print in between. And then we can say else we want to print out of range. Oh, actually, we probably want to do elseif counter is smaller than 100, then high range, else break. So here we have quite the complex one. We'll just go through it step by step. So here we have local counter equals 0, counter plus equals 1. So this will add 1 to the counter variable, and then we go to our if statement here. We have if counter is smaller than 10, we'll print counter. So this is saying while counter is smaller than 10, just print it in the output. Else if counter is larger than 10 and counter is smaller than 30, then print in between 10 and 30. So if these two conditions are true, it will print in between 10 and 30. So we can check whether or not counter is within a range. And then if we have a look at else if, we can say else if counter is smaller than 100, then print high range. So this is saying after counter is larger than 30, it's going to start printing high range because it's larger than 30, but smaller than 100. So it's important that you look at the logic of your code because this if statement depends on this one. And I've had cases where the last else if depends on the first else if, and it can be very confusing. So try to keep it as neat as you can in order and you'll have a happy time. But as you can see, this is how we go. And the last else here is else if counter is larger than 100, then. So if counter is larger or equal to 100, this is false. So then it's going to go to this else, which will break. So if I run this, we should see, I believe 0 to 9. We should see maybe 29 of these. And then we should see however many rest are high ranges. So if we run that, we'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Yep, so 9. We've got high range. We've got in between 10 and 30. And high range again. So that's the logic for our code that broke it. Let's have a look here. So if counter is smaller than 10. So if it's smaller than 10, print it. Also if counter is larger than 10. And counter is smaller than 30. Print in between range. The problem is we don't account for 10. 10 is neither smaller than 10. Nor is it larger than 10. It's 10. So what we need to do is, instead of larger, we're going to say larger or equal to 10. And counter is smaller than or equal to 30. Then we'll say in between 10 and 30. And then we can say else if counter is smaller or equal to 100, we want to print the high range. So now we should get 1 to 9, in between 10 and 30, and high range. Now let's also print the counter here. So we can see the numbers increment up, so we know what our bounds are. So if I print that, we have 1 to 9, which is below 10. And then in between 10 is 10 all the way up to 30, so it's showing it correctly. We've got larger or equal to, and we've got smaller or equal to. And then we have high range 31 all the way up to 100. Because we do smaller or equal to 100. So we account for 100 here. And then otherwise, if it is larger than 100, we just break the statement. And there we go. That is how you can use if statements. You can do like instance checking. So a lot of things that new scripters do not know is that you can do if workspace find first. Oh, that's not what I wanted. So here, actually, I'll go back a little bit. So what we can do is if workspace. Actually, let's do this differently. Let's do local part equals workspace find first child object. So right now there's nothing called object in workspace. And so what find first child will do is return nil. So if we have a look at the end here, it says it returns a instance. That's meant to have a question mark on the end, which means it can be null. But that will try to return a instance if it can find it under our parent here. So if I try print part here, it's nil. But if I add a part and call it object under workspace and run that, we get object, and that is the instance itself. So if I do type of part, it will say instance because we are referencing the object itself. So if we really wanted to, we could say if part then So this is saying if part does not equal to nil, then we want to print part get full name. So what get full name does is gives you the path starting from the services, so any of these here, all the way down to where that part is located. In our case, it should say workspace.object because we are looking directly in workspace for this object. So if I try run that, we have workspace.object. So that is our path to the object. And then what I'm going to also do is say part.position equals part.position plus vector3.new 0 to 0. So what this does is it will add this vector3.new value to the position of the part. So we're going to add this 0 to the x value of this position. We're going to add 2 to the y value of this position. We're going to add 0 to the z-axis value of this position. A shortened version of this is plus equals the vector3.new, and I'll leave it like that. So it's saying part.position add, or part.position plus equals, so add this vector to it, and that's what it becomes. And we're adding our vector3.new 0 to 0. So pretty much, if it finds that object called, that part called object, it will add 2 studs to the y position. So if we run that, you can see it moved it up 2. But if I call this, let's say, object 1, you can see it says nil and nil here because it is no longer there. It's called object 1 and it's not called object. But if we change it back, it's going to be there. Another note is find first child will find the first child called that name. So if I have 3 of the same things called object, it will only find the first one. To fix this, you have to loop over everything under the parent and check if that object or if that instance's name is what you are looking for. So an example of this would be for_part in ipairs workspace get children do. Don't worry if you don't understand this. In the other tutorials, we'll go over them. But I'm just giving you an introduction to all of them. So here we can say if part.name does not equal to object, then continue. So you can see I'm using continue now to do this. And we'll just do that. So let's run through the loop. So so underscore here would be the index part in ipairs. So integer pairs of this table. So this table here is an array. So it returns an iterate function and the table for use in a for loop. So if I actually look at, is that going to give me the get children returns an array containing all the instances children. So an array is, it has a numerical index and each index has a value. So here we're going to say, well, we don't actually need the index, so that's why I put it as underscore. We only need the part, which is under workspace, or any object under workspace. So actually that should be called object. So we're going to say if object.name does not equal to object, so if it's not these parts, continue. Or if it's not called object, just continue. So skip that object or item in the for loop. Otherwise, if its name is object, we can add to the position. Another version of this is if object.name is equal to object, add the position. So if we try that now, our position is not a valid member of... Oh, sorry, yeah, I need to... So if object.name does not equal to object, we want to continue. So make sure you have that. And as you can see, we have all of them ascending now because they are all called object. And then if I make these object 2, you should find that only object moves, but object 2 does not move. However, if we do string.find object.name object, so we're going to search inside the name for the word object. So if these parts have the word object with capital O inside the name, it will move them. So if I move these down here, I make these red, and I'm going to rename these to be obj3act. So this 3 is breaking the word object into half, and the 3 is in the middle. So if I run that, we should see that... Oh, whoops. if not string.find object dot name object. So if it cannot find object in that object's name, we want to skip it. So now if I run that, this one it found object because the name itself is object. This one it found object because object is first, and even though there is other like characters inside the name, the whole word object is found there. But if we have a look at this red part, the word object is split, so it's not actually found. It can't be found because 3 splits the word in half, and we're looking for the entire word together. So that's an example of using continue, as well as using if statements along with our iterators and all that, our loops, to achieve some result. And something like this you actually may do in your code, except this might be using C-frames instead of position. But we'll go into that later on. But hopefully this was more of a taste of what you would be doing in a little while. You're not that far off. You'll be doing this in a little while. It's not too bad once you understand everything. But yeah, so this is doing our for loop. So for every object in this table, if we cannot find object in the name, we just want to skip it. And if it does have object in the name, we want to add to the position this vector3.new. Hopefully you've learned something. Hopefully you found if statements very useful, and in a lot of, actually in all programming languages, basically, if statements are used everywhere. They are very versatile and you'll need them, definitely. But hopefully you've understood, and maybe you've learned actually some of these, which you may have been having trouble with, or you've learned string.find, which you may have never known. All of that. You'll figure out the rest later, but there we go. I'll see you in the next video.